When we hear the sound from the next scene in a movie before we actually cut to that scene, it's called a J-cut, because when you're using editing software, the audio file would come up under the previous clip to the one that it's actually attached to, which kind of looks like a J. So when the sound of a scene keeps going after we've cut to a new one, that would be called an L-cut for the same reason. In case you didn't know, there's lots of different types of edits that filmmakers use for specific reasons. J-cuts and L-cuts, for instance, often help to smooth transitions from one scene to another. The sound bridges the images in our mind, but it can also signal a dramatic beat.
I figured he's from Baltimore, and I looked in the phone book, and there's a Yourself storage facility right outside of downtown Baltimore, sir.
In Silence of the Lambs, Clarice tells her boss that she thinks Hannibal Lecter was speaking in code, and she references a location, then suddenly we cut to that location. It's subtle, but it heightens tension. A dangerous man told her about this place, and now we're there. It can also signal to an audience what a character is thinking. At the beginning of Saving Private Ryan, we have this J-cut. We zoom in on this older man's face as we hear the sound of a beach. We then cut to the scene at Normandy and realize he's remembering that day. A match cut is where the shot that ends one scene and the shot that begins the next one match in some kind of way. Some of the most famous ones are in 2001: A Space Odyssey and Lawrence of Arabia. But if you've been following along in Movie Club this month, we saw a bunch of them in Chicago.
I'm a heavy sleeper. I always said she could sleep through the St. Patty's Day parade. When I think of what would have happened if I went out for a beer with the guys instead of coming straight home.
The detective shines the light on Roxy's face, and then we cut to the reverse shot where she's silhouetted in light. But then as the camera moves, it reveals that the match cut actually signaled our shift from reality to the world of performance. A cutaway is when a scene is following one subject and then cuts away to something in a different location or time. Cutaways can be simple, like going to a shot of somebody reacting to what's happening in the scene, but in a different location. Sports movies use this a lot. But one of the more popular uses is for comedic context.
I was part of a special task force of very young-looking cops who infiltrated high schools. How do you do, fellow kids?
What?
The idea is that the characters refer to something, and then as the audience starts to imagine it, the reference suddenly appears. A cross-cut, or a parallel cut, is when a cut takes us between two events that are happening at the same time in different places, but are linked in the story. With Inception, the van's movements affect what happens in the lower levels of the dream world, and this is all perfectly illustrated with a crosscut. The connection between scenes may not always be a literal physical connection, though. It could also be thematic, like the famous baptism scene in The Godfather. A jump cut is when an edit deliberately breaks the continuity of an action. On one hand, a jump cut can do something as simple as save time. If we see characters arrive at a building, we can immediately cut to them inside the building and understand that they walked in without having to actually see them do that. But jump cuts can do a lot more creatively, like this scene in Dune.
I recognize your footsteps, old man.
Paul enters a kind of trance, and then suddenly Gurney appears behind him along with a jarring sound effect. It makes us feel like we were ripped out of the trance just like Paul was and pulled back into the danger of the scene. A cut-in is when a close-up appears in a sequence of shots. This could be to highlight an important object, but I think some of the most effective uses are stylistic flares, like when a car chase cuts into a shot of the driver flooring the gas pedal or shifting gears. Now that's not an exhaustive list of the types of edits in film, but those are some of the major ones. So next time you're watching a movie with your friends, you can say, "That was a sick match cut." And this month in Caden's Movie Club, our theme is editing is story, so hopefully these terms will be helpful as we continue going through our movie lineup. Let me know about some of your favorite types of edits and your favorite scenes that use them.